The vastness of space stretched out in every direction, a silent, infinite canvas of stars, planets, and distant galaxy. Emma Parker had always found comfort in the emptiness as a child. She did stare up at the night sky, dreaming of what lay beyond the limits of Earth. Now, as an astronaut aboard the Odyssey, she had ventured farther than most people could even imagine, but even the vastness of space held danger. The Odyssey glided quietly through the darkness, its systems humming softly. Emma sat in the cockpit, eyes fixed on the swirling anomaly ahead. The black hole known as Omega Singularity loomed large on her monitor, its gravitational pull warping the space around it. She studied black holes for years, fascinated by the mysterious force that could consume everything in its path. But being this close to one this active was another thing entirely. "Parker, are you seeing this?" Her eyes flickered to the side where Mark's image appeared on a small screen. "I am seeing it," Emma replied, her voice calm though her heart pounded in her chest. The black hole wasn't supposed to be this volatile. It had been dormant for decades until now. "Something is wrong with the gravitational readings. It's surge increasing fast. We need to pull back," Mark said, his voice tense. Emma nodded, her fingers flying over the control panel, initiating withdrawal sequence, engaging thrusters. Before she could finish, the ship lurched violently, throwing her against the harness. Alarms, flared red lights, flashing in every corner of the cockpit. The gravitational pull had become a tidal wave, pulling the Odyssey toward the black hole with terrifying speed. "Parker, we were losing control. Evacuate now." Mark's voice was frantic. "I can see," Emma began, but the ship was already spinning, the stars outside the viewport blurring into streaks of light. Time seemed to slow as the black hole swallowed her ship, the edges of reality warping and bending for a moment. Everything went dark. Then there was light, blinding, brilliant light that pierced her vision, and with it a strange sensation as though she were floating between dimensions. She reached out, but there was nothing to grasp. She was falling through time, through space, through something beyond comprehension. And then just as suddenly as it began, it stopped. Emma gasped, her lungs burning as she inhaled. She was no longer in the cold vacuum of space. The air around her was warm, and when she opened her eyes, she found herself lying on solid ground, surrounded by a strange, ethereal landscape. She blinked, trying to make sense of her surroundings. The sky above was a swirl of deep purples and blues, with strange lights dancing across it, like northern lights on Earth. In the distance, she could see towering structures, some made of stone, others shimmering with a metallic glow. The ground beneath her was soft, covered in moss, like plants that glowed faintly with their own light. She sat up, her body aching from the crash. Her spacesuit had taken the brunt of the impact, but it was clear she had survived whatever had just happened. The Odyssey was gone, likely consumed by the black hole, but she was still here, wherever. Here was. Her mind raced as she tried to make sense of it. She had fallen into a black hole. By all logic, she should be dead. And yet she wasn't Trey. She was alive, breathing, and on an alien planet unlike anything she had ever seen. Emma pushed herself to her feet, her legs unsteady. She took a tentative step forward, her eyes scanning the landscape for any signs of life. There had to be an explanation for this, some scientific reason, why she was still alive. But as she walked, the strange mix of magic and technology that permeated the air only deepened the mystery. As she rounded a hill, she spotted movement in the distance, 2 figures approaching her. Instinctively, Emma reached for the sidearm she kept holstered on her suit. It wasn't much, but it gave her a sense of security. The 2 figures came into view, a man and a woman, both clad in a strange mix of armor and robe. The man, tall and broad-shouldered, had an air of authority about him, with a sword strapped to his back and a faint aura of blue light surrounding him. The woman, smaller and more delicate, carried a staff that crackled with energy, her eyes sharp and calculated. "Who are you?" the man asked, his voice steady but curious. His eyes scanned her suit, clearly unfamiliar with the technology. Emma hesitated for a moment before answering. "I am Emma. I am from Earth." The man and woman exchanged a glance as if the name Earth meant something to them. "I am Carol," the man said, his hand resting casually on the hilt of his sword. "And this is Soraya. You've had come from the stars, haven't you?" Emma's heart raced. How could they possibly know that? "Yes," she replied cautiously. "I was on a mission, my ship." "The path of stars," Soraya interrupted, her voice soft but commanding it brought you here. Emma frowned. The path of stars. Soraya nodded, her staff glowing faintly in the dim light. Etherean, our world is connected to the stars by a mystical force we call the path. It is said that those who fall from the sky are destined for great things. Emma's mind reeled. Mystical force, destiny. None of this made sense. She was a scientist trained to rely on logic and reason, not magical prophecy. But standing here in this strange world that seemed to defy everything she knew about the universe, she couldn't deny the possibility that something beyond her understanding was at play. Is there a way back? Emma asked, her voice betraying the fear she had been trying to suppress back to my world. Carol and Soraya exchanged another glance. There is, Carol said slowly, but it is not an easy journey. The path of stars is fraught with danger and trials. Only those who are truly worthy can walk it and return to their place in the universe. Emma's heart sank. Trials, danger. She had survived a black hole, wasn't told enough. I have to try, she said, her voice firm. I need to get back. Soraya smiled faintly, as if she'd expected this answer. Very well. We will guide you on your journey, but be warned, once you start down the path, there is no turning back. Emma nodded, her resolve hardening. She had no choice. If this path of stars was her only way home, then she would face whatever trials lay ahead. With Carol and Soraya leading the way, Emma set off into the unknown, her heart heavy with the weight of her decision. She had no idea what lay ahead, but she couldn't afford to think about failure. Her only goal was to return to Earth, to finish what she had started. As they traveled deeper into the strange landscape, Emma couldn't shake the feeling that something about this world was calling to her, drawing her in. She tried to push the thought away, reminding herself that her place was on Earth, not here. But the more she walked, the more she felt a growing connection to Ethereum, a connection she couldn't quite explain. The journey had just begun. As Emma, Kyle, and Soraya ventured deeper into Ethereum, the landscape around them began to change. The ethereal glow of the moss beneath their feet intensified, casting a soft light on the path ahead. Strange flora and fauna surrounded them, trees with luminescent leaves, creatures that seemed to be part mechanical, part organic. The air was filled with a harmonious blend of sounds, as if the world itself was alive and singing. Emma couldn't help but marvel at everything she saw. This place is incredible. See me, she whispered, her eyes wide with wonder. Soraya glanced at her with a knowing smile. Heroine is unique. Magic and technology are not separate here. They are one and the same. Carol nodded. Our ancestors discovered that the essence of magic is simply another form of energy, one that can be harnessed and understood, much like your technology. Emma considered this on Earth. Magic was the stuff of legends and fairy tale. Yet here it was tangible, measurable, and higher. If only people back home could see this. Dad, she mused, it would change everything. Perhaps one day they will, Soraya said thoughtfully. Yeah, but for now we must focus on your journey. They continued on, and as days turned into weeks, Emma found herself growing closer to her companion. Carol was strong and brave, but also kind and thoughtful. He shared stories of his adventures, his struggles to protect his people, and his hopes for the future. Soraya was wise beyond her years, her mind a fascinating blend of logic and intuition. She taught Emma about the principles of Ethereum's magic, tech, how to sense the energy around her, how to channel it. One evening, as they sat around a campfire beneath the swirling lights of the night sky, Hanel turned to Emma. Hare, tell us about your world. Tree, he said. Trinol. What's it like? Emma hesitated. Earth is ... Placated Sarah. She began. Eri, we've achieved so much with technology, space travel, medicine, communication, but we've also caused a lot of harm. Pollution, wars, inequality. Sometimes it feels like we're advancing in all the wrong way. Soraya leaned forward. And why did you choose to explore the stars? She sighed. I guess I was searching for something more out there. I felt free from expectations, from disappointments. Space was an escape. Carol's gaze softened. Perhaps you were meant to find Ethereum. Emma smiled weakly. Maybe, but I can't help feeling that I still have a responsibility to my own world. As they prepared to rest for the night, Emma found herself staring up at the sky, thoughts tangled. The more time she spent here, the more conflicted she felt. Ethereum was everything she had ever dreamed of, a place where she felt connected, understood. But Earth was her home, and she couldn't ignore the pull to return. The next day, they reached the edge of the luminal forest, a place where the trees towered like skyscrapers, their branches weaving together to form a canopy of light. "We must be cautious," Kyle warned. "Paris is beautiful, but it holds many challenges." As they made their way through, the forest seemed to come alive. Vines moved of their own accord and whispers echoed around them. At one point, they came upon a clearing where a large, crystalline lake shimmered. Emma felt drawn to it, but as she approached, the water began to swirl, forming shapes and images. She saw visions of Earth, her family, her friends, moments from her past. Then the images shifted to show possibilities of her future in Etherean, a life of adventure, with Kayal and Soraya discoveries beyond her wildest dreams. The conflicting images stirred a deep turmoil within her. Emma Soraya's voice broke through the translucent illusion. "The forest is testing you." Emma shook her head, pulling herself back to reality. I didn't expect it to be so hard," she admitted. "The path of stars challenges not just the body, but the heart," Soraya said gently. "You must be prepared for what's to come." They pressed on, facing other trials that tested their courage and unity. In one instance, they had to solve an intricate puzzle to cross a bridge made of light. In another, they battled shadowy creatures that fed on doubt and fear. Through each challenge, Emma grew stronger, her confidence building. She began to tap into the energy of Etherean, using it to enhance her ability. One night, while Carol stood watch, Emma approached him. "Thank you, Day," she said softly. He turned to her, surprise in his eyes. "For what?" "For everything, for guiding me, protecting me. I couldn't have come this far without you." Carol smiled. "You have strength within you, Emma, more than you realize." Their eyes met, and for a moment, the world seemed to fade away. Emma felt a warmth blossom in her chest, a connection deeper than any she had felt before. But she looked away, the weight of her impending choice heavy on her mind. Finally, they reached the base of the Citadel of Eternity, a magnificent structure that seemed to touch the very stars. Its surface shimmered like glass, reflecting the cosmos around it. "This is it," Soraya said. "The final trial awaits inside. We cannot accompany you beyond this point." Emma's stomach tightened. "What will I have to do?" "Face yourself," Carol replied. "Your fears, your desires. Only then can you truly know what you want." Emma took a deep breath. "I understand." Carol reached out gently, taking her hand. "Tirai, no matter what you decide, know that you've made a difference here. You've changed us." She squeezed his hand. "Thank you for everything." Soraya gave her an encouraging nod. "Trust yourself." Emma stepped forward, the doors of the Citadel opening silently to admit her. Inside, she found herself in a vast chamber filled with swirling lights and shadows. The air was thick with energy, and as she moved forward, the environment shifted around her. Suddenly, she was standing in her childhood home. The familiar scent of her mother's cooking filled the air. She saw herself as a young girl full of dreams and innocence. The scene changed. She watched herself studying tirelessly, training to become an astronaut, sacrificing relationships and personal happiness for her career. Then she saw herself alone, floating in the darkness of space, a deep loneliness enveloping her. The image shifted again, showing her future on Earth, continuing her work, but remaining isolated, disconnected. "Is this what you desire?" A voice echoed around her. Emma shook her head. The scene transformed, showing her life in Etherean. She stood beside Charwell and Soraya, exploring new realms, contributing to a society that valued harmony and balance. She felt joy, love, belonging. "Or is this your path?" Tears welled in her eyes. "I want both, Hans," she whispered. "You must choose." Emma closed her eyes, her mind racing. Returning to Earth meant resuming her mission, potentially bringing the knowledge of Etherean back to humanity. She could inspire change, perhaps guide her world toward a better future. But staying in Etherean offered her personal fulfillment, a chance at happiness she had never known. She thought of Carl, the way his eyes lit up when he talked about his people, the gentle strength he showed in every action. She thought of Soraya's wisdom, the possibilities of what they could discover together. But she also thought of Earth, the people who needed hope, the potential to make a difference on a larger scale. Taking a deep breath, she spoke firmly. "I choose to return home." The chamber fell silent. Then the voice spoke again, softer this time. "Your resolve is strong, your path is clear." A doorway of light appeared before her. Emma turned back once, a pang of sadness piercing her heart. She knew what she was giving up, but also what she stood to gain. Exiting the citadel, she found Karal and Soraya waiting. "You've made your choice," Soraya said gently. Emma nodded. "I have to go back. My world needs me." Kiriel's eyes searched hers. "I understand," he said, though. His voice carried a hint of sorrow. "Terko, you have a noble heart." She stepped forward, embracing Soraya first. "Thank you for everything you've taught me." Soraya smiled. "Our paths may cross again. Until then, carry our lessons with you." Turning to Carol, Emma felt tears threaten to spill over. "Thank, I will never forget you," she whispered. He pulled her into a tight embrace. "Nor I, you may. Your journey be safe and your impact great." Reluctantly, she pulled away, stepping toward the shimmering portal that had formed a gateway back to her world. With one last look at the friends she was leaving behind, Emma stepped through. She emerged into the familiar surroundings of a space station medical bay. Alarms sounded and voices shouted in surprise as personnel rushed toward her. "Commander Parker, where did you come from?" Emma looked around, disoriented but resolute. "It's a long story, Prague," she replied, "but I have important information, something that could change everything." Over the following weeks, Emma debriefed with top officials, sharing what she could about Etherian without revealing its secrets entirely. She spoke of new energy sources, ways to harmonize technology with the environment, ideas that sparked both excitement and skepticism. Some dismissed her experiences as hallucinations from the black hole incident, but others listened. Slowly, her influence began to spread. Research initiatives were launched, focusing on sustainable technology and alternative energy. The subtle shift started within the scientific community, a new curiosity, a willingness to explore beyond conventional boundaries. Yet, despite her success, Emma often found herself gazing at the night sky, a longing in her heart. She missed Etherian, the beauty, the harmony, the people who had welcomed her so openly. One evening, as she stood on a balcony overlooking the city, she noticed a faint glow among the stars, a familiar pattern that resembled the path of stars. A soft smile touched her lips. "Maybe someday," she whispered to herself, talking to the stars again. She turned to see Mark, her former crewmate, approaching. "Turry old habits." "Tara," she replied. He joined her at the railing. "Ever since you came back, things have been different around here. People are more hopeful." Emma shrugged lightly, just sharing some new perspective. Mark glanced at her. "You sure you raised okay? After everything that happened?" She met his gaze. I think I'm exactly where I need to be." He nodded, accepting her answer. "Well, it's good to have you back." As he walked away, Emma looked up once more. The faint glow of the path of stars seemed to pulse gently, almost like a beacon. Her journey was far from over. She carried Etherian with her in her memories, her actions, her hopes for Earth. And perhaps one day, the two worlds would be connected again. But for now, she was content to bridge the gap in her own way, step by step.